Hi guys, so today we're going to talk about percent of change. If you notice the plant over here, the plant is growing up, right? So there's a change in height. Or the man is shrinking. There's also a change in height. Either it increases or decreases, and how much percent did it increase or decrease? That's what we want to know, right? Okay, let's start. So let's start with percent of increase, something that grows up. Look at this tall man, right? He wasn't like that before, but there was an increase of his height. And you want to know how much percent was the increase. Example number one. Last year, my final grade in math was 80. Now I got a 96. What is my percent increase? 80 became a 96, right? How much percent? Is that 100%? Is that 50%? What is it? All right, so the grade increase, right? So let's do that. The amount of change would be the new minus the old. Remember, the new first minus the old, not the opposite. So your grade was 96, uh, that's the new grade, and the old one is 80. So there was a change of positive 16. It went up by 16. You have to know that change first. Next, from that 16, you will use that 16 to solve for your percent of change. Now, you could do it mentally. Compare 16 to 80. 16, that's the change, compared to the original. What is the relation of 16 to 80? Okay? So mentally, what percent of 80 is 16? If you can think of 10%, 10% is what? 8. But it's double of the 10%. So therefore, what will you say? 20% increase. Suppose you can't do things mentally like this, what will you do with that 16? Okay, this is what you're going to do. The formula is the amount of change, which is 16, divided always by the old amount, not the new amount, the previous amount, because you're always comparing with the old amount. That's the whole number it came from. So 16 divided by the previous one is 80. Don't use 96, use 80. So if you divide that, you'll get a decimal point 20. Change it to percent to the right, that becomes 20% increase. So remember that? Subtract first, then divide by the original number. Let's now do the percent of decrease. This is a problem. Now, something about the height, okay? Another problem about grades again. Last year, my final grade was 80. Now I got a 72. So obviously it went down. What's my percent of decrease now? Decrease. So again, the step one is to know the amount of change. New minus the old. The new grade was 72 minus the old of 80. How will you remove a bigger number from a smaller number? So it's a negative 8. You can just think of 8. Think of the negative later on. So mentally, you're comparing 8 with what? With the old amount, which is 80. What is 8 in relation to 80? So obviously, if you divide by 10, that's 10%. So you could say there's a 10% decrease. Or you could say negative 10% increase. A negative means going down. So either or, you could use or. If you choose to ignore the negative, you could just say 10% decrease because that word decrease means negative. Next, you could use the formula. After knowing that 8, what will you do with 8? Divide it by the original. What is the original? The old one. So that's amount of change, which we already know, which is what? 8 or negative 8 divided by the old amount was 80. And if you get your calculator, you will get 0.10. Negative 0.10 to the right becomes 10%. Or you could just say 10% decrease. Okay? Now, remember our formulas. The amount of change, that's the first thing we did, new minus the old. New minus the old. Alright? Then, after knowing the new minus the old, that's called the amount of change. Actually, it's just a part of a bigger number. What was the bigger number? The old amount. Alright, so remember, subtract, then divide. If it's positive, it increases. If it's negative, it decreases. Now, so to make just a shortcut formula, I could always write this n minus o over o so that you have a guide. No o. Percent change is no and o, n minus o divided by o. That means the what? The new minus the old divided by the old. All right? Don't divide by the new. And if it's positive, it's increase. If it's negative, it's a decrease. Now, we will try the following problem. The new number is 550 is 200 more than the original number. What is the approximate percent? Okay, so we want to know the approximate percent. So let's write down our formula, something that you remembered. New minus the old, I'll subtract first, then divided by the old. So the new number is, obviously, new number is 500. I mean 550, right? 550. This is 200 more than the original number. Is 200 the original number? Are you sure? No. 550 was 200 more. So take away the 200. That becomes what? 50, 350 over old. And what is our old number? 350. All right? The original number is the old number. So you know that the difference is 200, right? On top. Divided by the 350 because it's the old or original number. You could cancel that. Okay, 20 divided by 5 is a 4. 35 divided by 5 is a 7, right? Okay, so 4 over 7, it's almost 50% because 50% is 3.5. So what's the nearest in 50%? The nearest is 55%. You can even get your calculator. 4 divided by 7, you will get almost 0.55. Next, account from 605 to 203. What is the approximate percent increase? So when they ask for approximate, they just want what? Doesn't have to be exact. So from this is the old, right? Label it to a new. 203 is the new number. Okay, write down my formula. N minus O over the old. All right. So the new number is 203 minus the 605. All right. And then divided by the old number, and the old number is 605. So you don't need an exact number, right? Round is up to 200. Round is up to 600 over 600. So 600 minus 400 minus 200 rather is 400. 400 divided by 600. Okay, you can cancel the two zeros here, the two zeros there. And your result will be what? 4 over 6, which is the lowest terms, is 2/3. What is 2/3? 2/3 of a whole, right? 2/3 is, 1/3 is 0.33 or 33%, 0.33 and 1/3, 0.33 and 1/3. So these two will be what? 0.66. Where would that be? Here you go, 0.66. Okay, it's just an approximate. You don't need an exact. If you want to be sure, just divide with your calculator. All right, let's read this problem. Laura checked her outdoor thermometer and noticed that the temperature rose. It's an increase, right? Because of the word rose. From 31 to 45 degrees. It got warmer in the afternoon. What is the approximate? It doesn't have to be exact percent of increase. So when you see the word approximate, actually you don't need to use a calculator. All right, so new minus the old divided by the old. All right, so the old one was 31, the new one is 45. So let's write it down. 45 minus 31, right? Over the old one, which is 31. 45 minus 31, that's 4, 1, 14 over 31. Okay. 14 over 31, you could estimate, it's almost equal to what? 15 out of 30. 15 out of 30 is just like what? It's just like one half. One half is what percent? 50%. About. Okay, look at mine. It's not equal, it's about. You can use your calculator if you want to know the exact number. So, what number here is nearest 50%? So, the answer is 45%. But if you check your calculator, if you did 14 divided by 31, you will get 0.45. So, yeah, it's near. Okay? Is it easy? So remember the formula, n minus o over o. Or just put in your mind, no o. No o. All right, good luck in your practices.